What if I told you that you're probably just a few micro habits away from a completely different life? Welcome to today's explainer. We're jumping right into a powerful concept from our source material called the architecture of immediate action. We're going to get a bit introspective today because we are looking directly at the blueprint of your future. Think about the life you desperately want, the one you've literally been dreaming about for years. It turns out that life might already be entirely within your reach. It isn't locked behind some impossible magical barrier. It's really just a matter of architecture.
So let's dive right into this. I want you to ask yourself a question directly from the source text. What if the life you want is already possible? Just let the weight of that sink in for a second. What if the gap between where you are right now and where you want to be has nothing to do with a lack of talent or a lack of opportunity? What if it's actually something way more mundane? Now, what's really interesting about this is that your ambition is absolutely not the enemy here. Like the text points out, the problem is not your dreams. Having those big, beautiful goals is totally natural, right? The real issue, the actual thing keeping you stuck exactly where you are today, is your habits. It's those invisible, deeply ingrained routines acting like massive iron anchors, holding you down while you're busy looking up at the stars. Which brings us to section 1 of this explainer, the trap of tomorrow, or the invisible pull. You see, our lives generally aren't shaped by massive, dramatic events on a daily basis. Instead, every single day, we face dozens, maybe hundreds of quiet, microscopic choices. On one hand, you have choices moving you closer to your goals. On the other hand, you have choices quietly pulling you away. There is zero neutral ground here in the architecture of your life. Every single decision nudges you in one of those two directions. And honestly, the scary part, the source points out that most people don't even notice this subtle pull. It's so quiet and remarkably mundane that we just kind of drift along, making the wrong calls without ever realizing we're drifting further and further from our destination. And how exactly do we justify all that drifting? Well, with comforting lies. I'll start tomorrow. I'll work harder next week. I'll change when the time is right. You know the ones. I've said them, you've said them. They sound so incredibly reasonable in the moment, don't they? But we have to be firm here. This is the ultimate trap of waiting. These phrases are basically designed by our brains to soothe our anxiety about not taking action today, but they end up completely robbing us of our future potential. Let's see how this builds, because this trap creates a terrifying snowball effect over time. It starts out pretty harmlessly. You delay until tomorrow. Seems fine. But then tomorrow easily becomes next week. Next week quickly blurs into next month. And before you even realize what's happening, years have passed. Time absolutely does not wait for perfect conditions. It just keeps moving, whether you decide to act or not. Okay, take a deep breath. Let's pivot to section 2, success in small decisions, also known as the compound effect. The incredibly empowering realization here is that success isn't built in one grand movie-worthy moment. You don't just wake up one day, a spotlight hits you, and you cross the finish line. Success is built in the gritty reality of the daily grind. The source highlights studies showing how elite performers rely entirely on marginal gains. It's waking up when you really don't feel like it. It's sitting down to study or work when you'd much rather just relax and zone out. It's putting in the reps and practicing when literally nobody is watching to give you a round of applause. It's staying incredibly disciplined when reaching for an excuse would be so much easier. In isolation, these moments seem insignificantly small, but I'm telling you, these exact, unglamorous choices are the ones that change absolutely everything. This leads us right to the climax of the source material, section 3, voting for your identity and ultimately the final choice. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. Think about those small, gritty decisions. The text suggests framing every single action you take as a literal vote. You're not just deciding whether or not to hit snooze, you're actively casting a ballot for your future self. If you keep choosing growth, casting those positive votes day in and day out, eventually growth becomes your core identity. It's just who you are. But conversely, if you keep choosing excuses, those compound too. Eventually, making excuses becomes your entire lifestyle. You become someone who always has a perfectly logical reason for why things just didn't work out. It's a compounding effect that solidifies into your permanent reality. Which brings us to this uncompromising truth. The choice is yours. Nobody can make it for you. Nobody can do the work for you. You can absorb all the information in the world, but nobody is going to build your future except you. Yes, it's a heavy responsibility to carry, but it is also the ultimate freedom. The power to design your life is entirely in your own hands. So we reach the final stage of our explainer, Section 4, the architecture of action, which simply means starting now.
So the crucial point is this, and this is our rallying cry. We have to stop waiting for that magical burst of motivation to strike from the heavens. We've got to stop waiting for perfect conditions, because the hard truth from our source material is that the conditions will never, ever be perfect. Instead, you just need 3 simple steps. 1, start with what you have. 2, start where you are. And 3, start today. Don't stress about the resources you're lacking or the skills you haven't fully mastered yet. Just start. Build that momentum. Immediate action is the only architecture that can actually construct the life you want. Because eventually, you're going to find yourself in the future, looking back at this exact moment in time, and you will face an ultimate binary reality. You'll either look back with deep, profound gratitude and say to yourself, I'm glad I started. Or you'll carry the heavy, crushing weight of regret, saying, I wish I had started. Make absolutely sure that you become the person feeling that gratitude. Which brings us to the only thing left to ask. Which one will you choose? The architecture is laid out perfectly in front of you. The foundation is just waiting to be poured. All that's left is for you to cast your vote today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Now, take this knowledge, get out there, and start building.